Cry, the Beloved Country by Alan Paton, a South African author. Now, this book opened its setting with a particular man named Reverend Theophilus Kumalo. We see Reverend Kumalo being disturbed and being anxious over something. What could that be? It happened to be that all the able young persons in the community of Indocheni was migrating to the city. This made the population in the rural environment very little, and that was what was bringing an uneasiness or stealing the peace of mind of Reverend Kumalo Theophilus. While we see Reverend Kumalo still musing, a young lady walks into the scene with a letter in her hand. The letter was sent by Reverend Nsimago from the city. Opening the letter, he sees that Reverend Nsimago is trying to tell him that his son, only son Absalom, is in trouble. Why his sister Gertrude is ill. This came as a bomb to Reverend Kumalo because his sister Gertrude left the rural environment first to the city in search of her husband because her husband went to the city for greener pasture. So Gertrude went ahead, went after him, that she was going to look for her husband, and all of a sudden her son, his only son Absalom, said he wanted to go and look for his father's sister. And so the two most important persons in his life, his sister and his son, was not okay. At this point, he felt depressed, but he fought all odds to make sure that he goes to the city in search of his son and his sister. Getting to the train station at Kasuruk, there was this eerie of atmosphere that anybody would assume that's a bad omen. But despite this dark cloud, Reverend Kumalo was still determined to go to the city. Instead, he said, "I handle my trip unto the able hands of God." This statement depicts the fact that Africans, even if they see danger coming, even if they are in the midst of trouble, there's this mindset that they yield everything to God. So in making that statement, he depicted a true spirit of an African man. And so he set out for the train. As soon as the train was moving, we see him struggling to read some Africans' writing. And at some point, we got to a station where everywhere was dark, smoky, and the rest. This depicted the rate at which the whiteners or the colonial masters were exploiting South Africa by stealing their gold. So at that point, gold mining was going on there. Then finally, we got to the city, or he rather got to the city at Johannesburg. Waiting for him was his friend who sent the letter, Reverend Nsimago, who welcomed Kumalo. He took him to his house, a suburb where only blacks lived. It was such a small and crowded environment of blacks. He also took him to the house of Mrs. Litib, who has a boarding school. There he was housed. Upon the following day, they set out to go and look for his sister and his son, Gertrude and Absalom. Getting towards Gertrude's apartment, a suburb where notorious crime is being committed, and unfortunately for Reverend Kumalo, his sister was already into prostitution. He was very, very disappointed, but at the same time, he was happy that he found his sister alive. He believed that with this, he can also change his sister from the way she was already living. So, upon finding the sister, they implored the hands of John, a close acquaintance of Reverend Nsimagi, to please join them while they go in search of Absalom. They had to leave Gertrude, Reverend Kumalo's sister, with Mrs. Litib's Remember, Mrs. Lee Tibbs is the owner of the boarding school. So Mrs. Lee Tibbs on her own part was helping his sister rehabilitate from her old life. Why John, Reverend Kumalo and Reverend Nsimagu went in search of Absalom. While they were on their way, we see John saying lots of stories of what he has gone through in the hands of the whites and how he has also been denied of scholarship. This didn't go well because the story really depicted of the denial or the racial segregation even in South African land. This didn't go well to Kumalo because in rural environment where they say they didn't experience those kind of thing. So, but what helped Reverend Kumalo had a fixed mind is because why John was still saying it, John believed that one day things will change. Remember, Africans are known for hope. They are known for hoping against hope, even when the hope is not coming. So, on getting to Shantytown, where it was described for them that Absalom would be staying, unfortunately, Absalom was not in the house, and the landlady said that he has moved out over a year ago. This didn't go well with the three musketeers because they have come a long way. They tried to persuade the woman to at least give them a hint of where Absalom would have moved to. But she wasn't ready to say anything. But with so much convincing and with the desperation in the eyes of the father of Reverend Kumalo, she finally gave them a hint of where Absalom would have moved to. They went back home and decided to set out to their journey again the following day. On getting to the desired location in the Absalom's supposed apartment, they met a very young lady, heavy with pregnancy. They asked about the whereabouts of Absalom, which she said that Absalom left the house over a week and hasn't showed up. This left Reverend Kumalo down, feeling so bad. At this point, Reverend Nsimagu encouraged Reverend Kumalo that they should go to the state council and seek the advice of James Jarvis. On getting to James Jarvis happens to be a voice for the blacks in South Africa. So they believe that if they could get to him, somehow he will help them find the whereabouts of Absalom. But on getting there, a bad news struck them. James Jarvis' son, one and only son, Otto Jarvis, has been shot. And the news has left the man so devastated. They couldn't meet him for help in such a mood. Upon getting back, both Nsimagu, John, and Kumalo were trying to put their heads together to know what could be done until a stranger brought a message for Kumalo and Nsimagu, trying to tell him that his son Absalom was actually the one found guilty of the death of the only son of James Jarvis. Oh, this didn't go well for Kumalo because for him, he was ready to meet his son for a proper reformation. He wasn't ready to meet his son in the prison. However, he took up the bold step like a father would do and went to the prison to visit his son. But I want you to take note of this. The person who brought the message to the three guys called Kumalo aside and told Kumalo to be careful of John. Kumalo heeded to the advice, however, he doesn't know what the stranger meant by that. He went to the prison to visit his son. Oh, such a bond between both father and son after how many months of not seeing each other. Reverend Kumalo tries to question his son of why is he going to take part in such a criminal act. Absalom, on the other part, apologized to his father, telling his father that the second person in the crime scene was John's biological son, and that he feels John was also aware that his son was involved in the shooting. There were three persons who went to kill Otto Jarvis' son. Kumalo, hearing this, told his son to give his life to Christ back, which his son did, and he did it remorsefully. After this event, we see Kumalo journeying back to his village, Ndocheni. On getting to Ndocheni was so empty and dry because everybody has migrated. Even his potential son's wife has also left the village. This didn't go well with him because he felt with the plan of bringing his son's potential wife that is in the village to the city, he can get the both of them married, helping the court sentence on his son to be a little mild. But it wasn't the case because this girl has also migrated to the city. He somehow journeyed back to the city and told lawyer Vincent about it. Lawyer Vincent was the one trying to help him with the case of his son. Lawyer Vincent told him, however, whatever the case may be, Absalom needs to get married at least to reduce the court prosecution on him. So the girl he impregnated was brought, and both of them were quickly married or joined together, as the case may be. Now the trial for Absalom approached, and he declared himself guilty of the charge because right now he was ready to take full responsibility of his mistake. However, he expected Matthew, John's own son, to also take full responsibility, but John lied and denied. This leaves a rage in Absalom's mind, that he feels that why will someone keep lying even after swearing with a Bible? So even after the judgment made the final judgment of execution, because he took a life, and the life of one white man is equivalent to the life of thousands of black men. So even after this execution was proclaimed on him, he called his father to a corner and told his father upon a secret money he kept somewhere for the future of his son. At this point, we see a fatherly responsibility in the life of Absalom. So even before he died, he was able to make peace with everything around him, except the fact that Matthew Johnson refused to take the blame of his own mistake. So guys, with this, we have come to the end of Cry, the Beloved Country by Alan Paton. This book actually reveals the racial segregation and the apartheidness among the South Africans in the early 90s. With this narration, we are able to see how the exploitation of gold and how they moved from the city, how blacks were made to live in suburb in their own land in the early 90s. So guys, with this, we have come to the end of the book Cry, Oh Beloved Country by Alan Paton. Please do well to subscribe to this channel, like our videos, share our links to your loved ones, to the lover of books out there. Follow us on all our social media handles, both Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook at Smash Book with Miracle Chisom. I'll be leaving the comment section open for a conversation. Let's talk about how this impact of the colonial masters in the 19th century, what it has done to us in the present day activities. I hope to hear from you. See you, and don't forget to click on the notification bell to enable you get our update. I love you so much.